Hi, I'm your L7 movie guy, PR Marks. This is the show for all your movie streaming recommendations and reviews. Let's get started. First up we have is 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. This is a 2026 post-apocalyptic horror film serving as a sequel to the first 28 Years Later. It follows a teenager named Spike who falls into a satanic cult led by Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal, while a doctor, Ian Kelsey, makes a connection with an alpha infected.
There was a definite connection between us.
So, if you've been following my channel for a while now, you probably know by now that I'm not really a big fan of the first 28 Years Later for its bad characters, boring pacing, predictable storyline, and the film being basically way too focused on a naked alpha donkey dick. That was pretty much, well, flip-flopping and hanging all over the place.
I have a penis.
Why?
This one, though, was actually much more of a pleasant surprise and started off where the first one ended. Sure, it came with all its production benefits, but much better at its direction of its story and horrifying moments.
Awesome!
Which brings me to my 3 positives and likes for this film. The first thing that I noticed and I liked about this right off the bat was how well they made use of the horror bloody makeup as well as the horror practical effects. It was perfectly balanced for those intense moments, but also had enough gruesome, shocking moments for some viewers.
Oh, gnarly!
The second thing that I liked would have to go to the direction of the story and where it was going with its characters. Cause even though I wasn't really a big fan of the character Spike and his storyline journey in the first film, I did like, however, in this film, they focused way more on 2 other main characters, like one being the insane cult leader, Sir Lord Jimmy, that was just really like manipulative and evil, and it was just much more of an interesting idea inside of apocalyptic world.
That's weird, man. That's weird.
As well as the doctor character storyline and his journey through his day-to-day and trying to fill the void or the loneliness by befriending an alpha infected that was filled with so many different emotions.
He has so many emotions.
So the last of my likes and positives would have to go to its overall pacing and editing of the film. For the fact that it didn't drag along at all for its runtime and really didn't shy away from all its bloody, intense, violent moments, as well as even the conversational moments between characters, which really kept everything at a steady pace and was compelling enough for the overall story.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Now for my 3 dislikes and negatives for this film. The first thing that I noticed right off the bat was the cinematography. Now, considering that it looked gorgeous and very clean, it just looked a lot more different and didn't really match up with the first 28 Years Later. Cause in the first 28 Years Later, they did a very good job at matching the tone and look of its predecessors, like 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, with that grainy, chaotic movement look that we do not get in this one. Instead, what we get is much more of a sharp, digital, colorful look that kind of doesn't stay consistent with the previous films and almost stands out on its own and kind of neglects the fans of this franchise.
Don't upset the fans!
Which brings me to my second dislike and negative for this film, and that would be the fact that you would have to watch the first 28 Years Later in order to watch this one, because you would probably wouldn't understand certain characters or certain things going on. Because for the fact that there's these 3 main characters, well actually 4 main characters, that if you didn't watch the first film, you really wouldn't understand their backstories or their relationships with each other, or even their drive or motivations, which would make you feel kind of lost or kind of like basically be what the fuck.
Hey, wait, huh? I don't get it!
Lastly, for my negatives and dislikes for this film, which is actually a minor one, would have to go to the character Spike again. Because even though he was much more better utilized in this one by not having that much more screen time, I feel like he was still a weak character.
Oh, shit, bro.
Overall, this one was much better and much more entertaining than its predecessor, and will always be part of that discussion, which sequel is better than the first. Not only does it have its terrifying subject matters as well as its bloody gut-eating moments, but did an even better job of showcasing the balance of those conversational moments with evil behavior as well as emotional sad behavior.
Oh, well, that's good, I guess.
Also, too, if you are remotely a fan of that band Iron Maiden, then you definitely need to check this one out because there is a great scene involving that band's music. And that is why I'm going to give this one a yay. But for an audience thumb scale, it's going to be a 3 out of 5. Last up we have is Crime 101. This is a 2026 crime thriller directed by Bart Layton based on a Don Winslow novel. Starring Chris Hemsworth as a jewel thief, Mark Ruffalo as a detective that is pursuing him, and Halle Berry as an insurance broker whose past intertwined with his for a final large-scale heist.
Hey, what the hell?
Put the money in the bag.
So I remember this one being in theaters and being very interested in going to go see it, but I missed my opportunity and I really didn't hear any buzz about it afterwards, besides maybe the fact that there's a good amount of star actors in it. Then after watching this one, the only way to describe it is maybe like a weak rip-off version of the film Drive meets the film Heat.
That's a shame.
The only difference is there's these three main character storylines that get tangled and intertwined with each other, and the majority runtime of the film is mainly focused on planning a robbery out than anything else. That ultimately has a slow, realistic, gritty take on a crime drama with some cool action moments here and there.
Now we're talking.
Which leads me to my likes and positives for this film. The first thing would have to go to the cinematography. It was masterfully executed for all its shot selections and really gorgeous to look at for all its blue-gray filters as well as its warm gel colors.
That sounds epic.
The second thing that I liked was the acting and the main characters. They were just well-grounded, cold calculated, and really worked for all those intense moments as well as those normal interaction moments, which was really the actual driving force for this film.
Really? You don't say.
Then for my final likes and positives for this film, which is kind of a minor one, would have to go to the score as well as the musical choices. Cause for the fact it really brought a lot of life to those scenery shots as well as to our characters that were sometimes very quiet and calculating their next move. That ultimately amplified a lot of emotions within certain scenes as well as the overall story, but really amplified certain action moments to another level.
Well, that's music to my ears.
As for my negatives and dislikes for this film, I would say they're pretty much on the nose and really not uncommon for films like this. First thing that came to mind right away when watching this film was the editing and pacing. Cause it was slow and kind of dragged in certain moments for its runtime and you can really feel it.
Well, that sucks.
Then from that actually brings me to my second dislike and negative for this film, and that would be the very ending or the actual end result. For the fact it was kind of weak and really was a big missed opportunity for a grand scale ending that just felt kind of lackluster of what we got and not a good payoff for a crime thriller genre. I mean, come on, at least have some more violence or like an action crazy shootout scene for its final ending. It just felt very like, here you go. That was cool. Really? No, it wasn't.
Dang it.
Now for my final negatives and dislikes for this film. It's kind of a minor one, but it would have to go to some of the side characters, which, even though they were performed well enough, they just felt really unnecessary and really not utilized throughout the film. For example, the love interest character of Chris Hemsworth. She was performed well enough and she was good in what she had to do, but I think she was written poorly. I think she could have been written as more of like a high-stakes problematic character for Chris Hemsworth that would have gave a lot more higher stakes to the overall performance as well as storyline.
For sure. For sure.
Now for the second example of side characters would have to go to Nick Nolte's character for the fact that he was playing this type of like, ringleader, planning of the robberies type boss figurehead kind of dude. And he just was like a big element in the film. And at one point he just kind of disappears and you were just kind of like, where the fuck did that guy go? I mean, literally. Why even have him in the movie at all if you're not going to have him throughout the whole film and he was such a strong character? It made no sense to me.
Now think about that. That does not make sense.
In the end, this one was just okay and nothing special like the trailer made it out to be. I do think for me this film had a lot going for it, and it was pretty much a decent watch throughout the whole film until the very ending, which felt very flat and not grand enough for what it was trying to do.
Well, you make a good point.
Which kind of sucks because after watching the end result and seeing what happens throughout the film, it's not going to be a rewatchable one and it's not going to be a rememberable one. So that is why I'm going to give this one a nay. But for an audience thumb scale, it's going to be a 3 out of 5. Well, that's all the time we have. As always, smash that like and subscribe button. And if you liked any of the movies we discussed, please leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching, and may the movies be with you. Lates.